president. And then also we had an Ivorian delegation from Alsani Ouattara, who came to visit His Excellency the President to discuss issues. How important is our neighbors and the relations we have with them to the sustenance of ourselves as a country?
The first thing we must say, we have to recognize the leadership role Ghana as a country is playing in the sub-region and across the continent. Because we are seen as the haven of peace, tranquility, electoral tolerance and all those things. And it is something that all of us should cherish. That is why we shouldn't tolerate candidates who will be talking about order bidai and at all costs and all those things. Because the peace that we have in this country is more valuable than anybody's selfish ambitions. You understand? So, looking at the leadership role that we play, a lot of countries want to learn from us. Contrary to the speculation that the rumors that our friends in the opposition wanted to push around and make it look as if Ivory Coast has some problem with Ghana. Yeah. The statement by Ouattara sums it all, that our president is a wise person. Yeah. It tells you the esteem, how they hold him in high esteem. And it is across the continent. Every president who makes comment on our presidency, you know what he says about our presidency. And so that is the type, what we have succeeded in bringing this country to, the level we succeeded in bringing this country within this short period of time. So the Ivory Coast, for example, are looking up to us for leadership. Okay. Looking up to us to ensure that they are able to emulate those good principles that we are operating here. And I think that it is a plus and a feather in our cap. Okay. Now the presence of the Vice President in Liberia is also signifies the same thing. Because every country across Africa, whenever Ghana is there, then people have arrived.
It adds color.
It adds color to what has happened. Yeah. And I think that the reception received by the Vice President and his team in Liberia sums it all. And I think that it is the leadership style of our president, who has always adopted the diplomatic, type of leadership. He wouldn't want to go the rabble-rousing type of politics or diplomacy. He wants to play a role underground, and he won't boast about it. That's the most important thing. He doesn't boast about the role he plays. He does it, and you see it practically manifesting in the peace that, for example, resulted in Ivory Coast and other places. And I think this is something that all of us should be proud of.
Okay. Yeah, Honorable.
Well, I think it is fair to say that over the last many years, Ghana's own position, as a leader on the continent, it cannot be underestimated. And we have done this in many, many, many ways, particularly in the area of peacekeeping. It is one of the exemplary roles that the country Ghana has continued to play. But particularly over the last 3 years, I do believe that our standing as a country and our rating itself has tremendously been shored up by the character and personality of our president, His Excellency John Evans Atta Mills, as Baba rightly spoke to. His leadership style. President Mills is seen as a leader not only in West Africa, but indeed on the whole of the continent. His views highly respected. His kind of diplomacy is not the loud type, it's the silent diplomacy, but the kind that gets results. Okay. In this sub-region, he is highly, looked up to, from Nigeria through Togo, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, the Gambia, South Africa, Guinea. All of these leaders from all these countries look up to President Mills and continue to hold consultations with him. And you heard the Ivorian president not too long ago. You also heard President Goodluck Jonathan when he was here on a state visit. You heard UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon as well, also speak highly of President John Evans Atta Mills. I think that it takes his humility, his deep sense of thought, his reflective and non-aggressive nature, that he also thinks about the quality of his acts and the likely implications that as a president your decision can bring. I think that the issue about presidency is not a matter to be toyed with, because you hold in your hand very authoritative role and powers, and a wrongful exercise or wrongful judgment on your part could have very serious ramifications, you know. So if people could be, say, reckless by urging people to go on the street and saying that all die be die, or let me be president at all costs, I think that, with the greatest of respect, that for me is reckless, and that cannot be expected of anybody who seeks the high office of a president of a Republic of Ghana. I think that war is outdated, is old-fashioned. Yeah. And sometimes it appears that some people probably haven't gone to war-torn areas or haven't learned lessons from there. If anybody has been to Liberia and they have seen what they went through, I don't want to see, my sister, my mother, I don't want to see my brothers and my siblings carrying mattresses and sometimes fridges and all of that, not knowing where they are headed, you know. That kind of recklessness ought not be encouraged.
Yeah, Baba. Okay. I need to explain to Ghana.
Okay, I think in my short, these are some of the almost complete structures of the Volta University. Yeah, the temporary structures of the Volta Universities. And this, in the short, you can see work of a lecture theatres and also lecturers' bungalow, which are being roofed. So in all earnest, work is progressing, and then,
And this was not built in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This started a long time ago.
Yeah.
So those who were continuously lying to the people that nothing was happening, there was no university there, now we know the lies here.
Okay.
Let me also say that we are talking about all that we done. We will keep referring to it because we don't want this country to burn.
Yeah.
We want people to choose between somebody who is saying that I must be president at all costs and all die be die, and somebody who will say that Ghana will live to the glory of God.
Okay.
We are giving the people the choice to choose. And those who are saying also that we should do fearsome, yes, we are doing our fearsome, all right. But of course, it is important for us to also keep an eye on them, because that we are not taken by surprise by the all die be die syndrome. Okay. So that's what we are doing. But I can assure you that, yes, one caller said that we have our own problems. Yes, we admit that. And of course, a party like NDC, if we don't have problems, then I myself will be surprised. Okay. But it is our maturity
with which
these problems are handled. And we can assure our supporters that we're going to handle it in a very matured way. And 2012, inshallah, will bring this party back.
Yeah, Honorable James, Ho Hospital, Cape Coast Hospital, Tamale Hospital, and the Comfort and Noche Teaching Hospital, government through Toshiba is installing actually 4 new RMI machines. Yes, MRI machines, for diagnosis.
Again, it comes back to a social democratic tendency that you will look at what is in the greater good of a larger society. In the past, I'm sure that there are people who have had access to MRI services, but clearly not within our borders. A few privileged people may have flown to some destinations at the taxpayers' expense, only to go and access some of these things. But
some never came back.
Well, I'm sure that those are facts that are pretty much within the knowledge of Ghanaians, But the point is that, do you continue to do that as a social democratic party? How do you reflect that? You reflect that by making sure that those equipment that are necessary and incidental to the sustenance and the promotion of long life and making diagnosis and all of that and solving people's health needs, instead of getting a few privileged people to fly to those expensive destinations, you bring them down here so that as many people from here, be they NDC, NPP, CPP, PNC, at the end of the day, regardless of our political differences, we are Ghanaians. And it's important that, government positions itself so that the quality of life of Ghanaians, regardless of whatever political party they are coming from, can be enhanced. That is what makes a difference. That is what underpins the decision which President Mills and his administration have taken, unlike in the past, where a few privileged people may have the luxury of being flown on air ambulances abroad and all of that, you know. So that is the difference. Beyond this, you've seen how in this country we've dotted the length and breadth of our country with hospitals, polyclinics all over the place, community, health.
I even remember a story where about 226 activists of the New Patriotic Party in Ashanti Bekwai, I think it is a Sujaman or something, there is this constituency that defected to the NDC, and they stated that, in fact, in less than 3 years, a regional hospital that was started is almost completed, coupled with a number of projects, and they are very, very proud. That's why they were joining the NDC.
Look, my brother, I just returned from the Central and Western region.
Okay.
I want people who are from those communities to find time and also tell people what is happening out there.
Okay.
People sometimes sit in Accra and think that
nothing is going on.
Nothing is going on. Even in Accra, you have seen what is going on. Sure. But in the villages, I want people. The last time I sat on this road and said that in Bolga, a lot of things are happening on that road between Tumu and Water. Now you see somebody has called from Bolga and said that there are changes happening. It is a uniform type of development. Every place is seeing something. That is the type of thing we are talking about. Socially distributed. Okay. Every district is developing. Okay. And that's what we're talking about. So when people think about only few things, people, capitalism sit in Accra and think that is okay, I can assure you to go around.
Let me quickly fill in. I mean, over the weekend I was in Sunyani, and I mean, to and fro. I went by road to and fro through Kumasi. The match talked about Sofo line. It's not like it was before. 2-3 months ago when I was in Kumasi. You can see that work is proceeding at such great speed. You know, so the evidence is on the ground, and as Baba said, I mean, it's not like somebody is saying it. The record speaks for itself.
If you are in your community and it has not touched you, then if there's nothing there, that means there's nothing nowhere. Okay, but if there's something there, it means that something is going on everywhere.